Welcome to Journeys with the No Schedule Man, exploring authentic stories of personal growth and lessons learned from people living true to themselves with creativity, passion, and purpose. For all past episodes, subscribe at iTunes or visit noscheduleman.com. And please connect, share, and contribute with a comment, rating, or review. And now, here's your host, the No Schedule Man, Kevin Bulmer.
I've been known to struggle with reality. Not that it is any real mystery.
The question this week is, do you believe in miracles? What would have to change in your life for you to consider it a miracle? See if you can imagine that and hold that thought for a moment. Welcome. I'm Kevin Bulmer. This is Journeys with the No Schedule Man, helping to create positive change by exploring and sharing authentic conversations on personal and professional growth. You can find all past episodes of this podcast around the world on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and at noschedulemanpodcast.com. If you like what you hear and you'd like to continue the conversation with me on a daily basis, I'd love that. I invite you to join me in my online community. It's called the Turtle Tribe. I recently asked a few of its members to describe what they felt the Turtle Tribe is. Here's what one of them said. She said, quote, "The Turtle Tribe is a place of unrivaled empathetic support, encouragement, guidance, and mentorship to assist in achieving living life on your own terms among a group of like-minded, inspirational people also on a journey to live life to the fullest." If that sounds appealing to you, please visit theturtletribe.com. You'll learn everything you need to know there, and I'd love to see you in there. Love to have you. Now, back to where we started. Miracles. Today, we're joined by Nichole Wynter, a miracle life coach. Nichole helps ambitious businesswomen materialize miracles in their business and in their lives. Among the many areas where Nichole helps her clients include managing their distractions, overcoming the need to please others so they can stop saying yes when they really mean to say no. But I know you've never done that, right? Right, neither have I. She also helps people to execute their plans so they can materialize their own miracles within their own business and life. As you're going to hear, Nichole is the perfect person to coach on this because it is exactly what she's done in her own life and in her own work. Just a few of the key takeaways that immediately stood out to me from my time with Nichole. Number one, significance. It's a word that she uses quite often, and referencing what gives us a feeling of significance and what we're doing to contribute to that feeling of significance to the people around us. In her case, she talked extensively about her husband and her kids, but we also got into her sense of self and what she had her own sense of significance attached to and how that evolved and changed as her journey went along. Number two, you're going to have doubts. No matter how certain of something we feel when we start out, it's inevitable we're going to encounter doubt along the way from the people we love, from people that we don't know, and maybe most importantly, from ourselves. It's just part of the process. Nichole's gone through it. I've gone through it and am going through it. And anybody else that has challenged themselves to go on a journey to be more than what they thought originally they could become has had to face doubts. So this idea of becoming fearless, in my opinion and experience, be careful with that. It's baloney. There's no such thing as being if you're fearless, then there's some other chromosome that's missing that actually makes me really afraid. What you want to be is aware of what the fear is and able to act upon it. Sometimes the fear is there for a reason. But we don't want to be fearless. We want to fear less. You're still going to have some doubts. What separates the great from the good or the good from the just sort of existing is recognizing those doubts, recommitting and understanding what that purpose is and how you're challenging yourself, going ahead and acting anyway. Number three, leadership in life and work. And Nichole talked about how ultimately it's up to us to decide what it is that we want to stand for and how we want to be viewed as a leader at home and at work. As Nichole said in our conversation, if you don't set the culture, you allow the culture to form. Now, in other words, if you don't choose, life will choose for you. Most of us don't realize how much influence we hold over our own experience through the power to choose, which comes back to leadership. Who's at the wheel of your life and your business? I would suggest, as Nichole has, that if we have not made the active decision to choose and to take the wheel and decide how we want to be viewed as a leader and how to set the tone for the culture that we want and expect, if we don't do that, then we're allowing that to just form and decide for us, and we're just sort of getting swept along with the tides. May not be the best idea. Something else Nichole mentioned near the end of this chat is how she feels that self-awareness is an absolute game changer when it comes to making the choices that shape our actions that turn into the experience we're having at home and at work. And I could not possibly agree with her more. In fact, awareness is the first of the 4 keys to contentment that I offer. If you want to learn more about that, go to thekeys2contentment.com. But back to the point here, miracles. Here's Nichole Wynter on how she created miracles in her life and work, and how you can make some of this work for you too, on Journeys with the No Schedule Man. Nichole, I'm curious, what was the first change that you noticed in your life that made you believe that miracles were possible?
Okay, so that was really me leaving my corporate job. The opportunity to walk away from my corp, make the decision to leave, and an opportunity to then start working on my own business. So if I just give you a little bit of background into that, Kevin. So I've been working ridiculously long hours for a long time, working corporately, enjoying my job, but I was just being away so much from my family, my kids. My husband didn't see me. In all of that, my mom as well, I was doing lots of medical appointments for her and supporting her and juggling. I was just juggling and having to make the time back up at work. And it came to an evening where, after doing this for years, and my family getting probably fed up with me, rang me up at work. My daughter did one night, and said, Mom, in a very sad tone, Mom, are you coming home? When are you coming home, Mom? And I said, Mom, listen, I said, Kiara, I'm working. Because I was a little bit annoyed, and I shouldn't be. I feel guilty for that. But at the time, I felt torn. I had my clients to see to. I had my team to look after. I had targets at work. I felt torn between my family, work, and that was it. I thought, what do you expect me to do? In my mind, I'm thinking, this is what I do. This is my job, and I'm doing the best I can. And it was when my daughter rang me. Initially, I didn't even want to take the call. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I took the call. And, because I knew this is a conversation we probably had every night. She'd ring me up at work and I'd say, yeah, I'll be there in a minute. I'm leaving in 10 minutes. And she'd say, Mom, you say that all the time. So on that night when she rang, and I sat in my big open plan office, if you can picture this, big open plan, big space. We have, and every time I'm alone in this office. And as I type on my keyboard, you can hear just the tapping because it's so quiet. And every now and again, the lights would go off and I'd wave my hand. These are the energy saving bulbs. So I'd wave my hand and the lights would all come on and I'd work again. So it was just very eerie, me just focused working. So when she rang at the moment and, I took the call and I thought, no, spoke to her. She said, Mom, well, your dad's going to put me to bed and you said you're going to do this. And Mom, are you not part of our family? And it really cut deep. But in that moment, Kevin, I just thought, oh gosh, I knew then that I needed to do something differently. I knew that this just was not working. I knew then that I was giving everything. I was giving like 80% to my job and 20% to my family. And in my very naive sense, I just thought, well, you know what, the kids, they've got their dad, and my husband is so hands-on. I thought, he's looking after them at home. At least I've married a great man who is doing that. That was one of the reasons. That was a big thing for me. And I wanted, in terms of what I was looking for, I wanted to ensure that when I got married, my husband would be hands-on. This is something I kind of knew from I was about 14, 15. Because my dad wasn't so hands-on. So I remember making a conscious decision at that moment saying, when I get married, my husband must be, hands-on with my children. He must be able to help them with their homework because I know I'm going to be really busy as a career woman. That's kind of what I said. So, it worked out, but it just wasn't, it wasn't the right thing to do. So in that moment, on that night, when I answered and said to her, you know what, I'll be home soon. She's crying. And I said, I'll be there. She goes, Dad's putting me to bed. Mom, I'm not going to see you. And I thought, oh, God, I'll be there. And I kind of, okay. So I packed up and when I went home. And that was the moment for me when I started thinking, I need to do something about this. So moving forward, as I considered this more and more, and created a goal, a vision board about setting up my own business, because I knew I needed to do this. But I had no way. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know where to go with setting my own business up. I had an idea. I know I wanted to become a business consultant. I've always wanted to be able to go into businesses and help them to troubleshoot, help them to identify the problems that's not working for them, and provide some solutions around it, show them how to make a difference, how to grow their business. So I've always known that I could do this, and this is something I was doing in my corporate job. So as I decided that's what I wanted to do, I had no way of knowing how this was going to manifest itself. But I had it on my vision board. And, the thing, and something else happened, Kevin, weeks later, about a few months after, while I continued to work and not really making a clear decision on it, my mom became ill as well. And in that moment too, my mom had to be resuscitated. The doctor practically said, what do you want your mom to do? Have you and your mom ever had this conversation? I said, what conversation? She said, we need to put her on a ventilator because she won't make it through the night. And I thought, oh my God. So, thank God, moving forward, they did manage to save her life. She stayed in hospital for about 5 days on a ventilator on life support. And then I knew even that my mom would need me, my children need me. The pressure became greater. Still had no way out. But then I knew that I had to make the step. So with that on my vision board, I started to talk about it. I started to talk about it more and more to more people. I started looking at ways in which I could get my first contract. And this worked out so well. And that's why I believe so much in writing out your vision or your goal and praying about it. And really, when you do that, step out and start taking action. And that might be just asking, just kind of sounding out, just exploring, just seeing what else is out there, because it won't necessarily just fall in your lap. You have to take some element of action. You have to kind of do something to try to manifest that into your space. So that's what I did. I started asking around, and somehow, Kevin, I'm going to say God provided this for me. This was one of the miracles for me, where an ex-colleague, was an ex-CEO that we had. He'd gone and he'd actually moved on. And I made contact there with him. And he said, yeah, we're actually looking for a business consultant. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So even in that moment, it was scary. It was scary walking away from a full-time, very good salary, very good position at a team that respected me. My clients respected me. I was doing so well. But I knew that it was time for me to step out, and that opportunity presented itself. As much as there's no level of surety, I was still really scared. I was still moments when I think, oh my God, am I really going to hand my notice in? And what happened? What if that doesn't work out? What if they haven't given me a contract? I haven't signed anything yet. And they've said, yeah, we will give you a contract. We want to have you on board. Had a couple of meetings. And in that moment, I thought, you know what? God would not have led me down this road for this reason. This is opening for a reason. There's a reason why this opportunity has come up. I've asked, and I'm going to go with it. And I just had to kind of take the step, Kevin. And that was one of my first miracles. That was a first miracle for me that made me realize that whatever you want to achieve, it is possible. And that's why I know miracles are possible in our lives. And it's happening every day, and what we ought to do is pray about. We need to write the goals out. We need to take some positive actions towards it. Stay very focused. And it gets tough. There are going to be moments when we struggle with the resistance, with the challenges, and those resistance are internally as well as external. Because in those moments, when I said to colleagues, I'm leaving, and even my own family, my mom would said, oh no, you don't want to do that. What if that happens? How are you going to do that? What happens if the contract doesn't work out? What happens if this? My husband was a little bit worried, even though he was more supportive. He knew this is what I really wanted to do. Friends would say, are you sure about that? How long is this going to last? Why are you going to do that? And there's a lot of questions around it, which caused me to question, am I doing the right thing? What if I go in and it's only a 6 months? I mean, initially, that contract was about 6 months contract. And there was that 6 months go fast, and what happened after that? And, I took the steps. I took the step out there, and, thank God it's been, 5 years plus now, and I'm still doing my thing. I'm still working for me. I've moved on from that contract onto another, and, I'm able to leverage that and use the knowledge and skills and the opportunities that and what I've learned, and use that to help a lot more businesses for them to grow. And that's really that's the pinnacle of this for me, because this is what I've always wanted to do. And it's brought that together. So that was one of my first miracles. I've experienced so many other miracles since, but that was probably one of the first things for me that made me realize that doors just open for you. It's possible for that to happen. You set your vision out, you have a clear vision, you know what you want, you have a goal, and you take the steps towards it. As scary as it is, recognize the fear, recognize that you are going to have those internal doubts. You're going to have doubts from yourself. You're going to have doubts from your best friends, your family, your spouse. And it's because they care. And we know that it's because they really care. But if we don't, this is why it's very important to know that, recognize and know it's going to happen. Have a sense of deeper awareness and kind of rise above that, because when you become more self-aware and realize that, do you know what, this is not going to go without me having some doubts. I'm going to have these moments of resistance. I'm going to have the moments when I question myself deeply and get to points where I think, I don't think I can do this. Really, I'm not going to do this. This is not sure. Well, we need to know this is what happens. This is how our system, this is how we're designed. The fear is there to protect us. The brain kicks in. Our family is also trying to protect us. But trust. We just have to trust the process a bit more. Trust God some more and go with it. Go with it. Take the steps. And if that didn't work out, I mean, I said to myself at the time, if that didn't work out, that's not the only opportunity in the world. That's not the only opportunity for me. And if I've done it, I've got the skills and I can do it again. So those are the reasons I took the decision to leave among a house, no matter how as in spite of how scary it was. And that was one of my first kind of big miracle, because that opened the door for a lot more miracles to start happening. That showed me that there was a lot I could do. There's a lot more possibilities. There's a lot more that I'm capable of. And I could do that for a lot more other people.
I wonder if we can take a moment and fill in some of the backstory to give a little bit more context, Nichole, to where you were at the start of what you just described. You mentioned yourself as a, quote, career woman. You're married. Mm-hmm. You talked about your daughter, your mother's health and whatnot. But let's go back a little bit earlier in your journey. And what can you share with me about, how you thought about life as a younger woman, and as you entered into the professional field, what you felt were your responsibilities, as a professional career woman, wife, mother, and what more specifically you were doing in the time that led up to that miracle decision?
Okay, so in terms of how I felt, so in that role, if I backtrack, I probably went very quickly over that. So I worked in a corporate environment, in a senior position, managing a largish team of technical teams. My background was IT, and so I had a team of project managers and technical designers and stuff. So very, very demanding role, but I loved it. I loved my team. I loved what I was doing. I was enjoying that. And it's probably because growing up, this is something I've kind of always envisaged myself doing in that position. So I think I've worked to get to that position. So when I started my career, I went in at a very low level and quickly worked my way up. But that took a lot of late nights, a lot of energy, time, sacrifice for me. So even though I had a young family, I went back to when my daughter was born. I had 2 cesareans. So I've got a son as well, my oldest son and my daughter. I had 2 cesareans. I went back to work at 5 months, put them into daycare. My mom looked after my son because he was older, and then my daughter went into daycare later on when I had her after 5 months, and really went back in full time. My mom would help to pick up my children. My husband would be there back at home, he'd sort dinner, and I would just be working. I'd be away from I'd be away for like days, traveling around the country and doing meetings, traveling around, working with different partners. And that was my role, and in all of that, so I within my team I had responsibility for huge financial targets. So I would work with my team, every day. So I would come in the mornings and I would do a pep talk, because I've always believed that it's about motivating my team and trying to get the best out of them, so that I'm not micromanaging. I'm empowering them to make decisions and to take responsibility and to do that kind of thing. So in that role, Kevin, that was a day in, day out. And with all the meetings I had at work, it meant that by the time I'm finished meetings, I'm finishing meetings throughout the day from 8 in the morning. I'm there till 5, 6, 7. And then I'd sit down in the office and be still working on my own till about 8, 9 o'clock at night when everybody else has gone home. Weekends, I used to go into the office sometimes, and sometimes I'd bring the kids in and they'd play around on the whiteboards in the office, in the conference rooms, and have hot chocolate and think it was fun. And I got on with working. So that was how my life was. It was just chaotic in the sense from my family's perspective. From my perspective, it didn't probably feel so chaotic. I felt like I was probably controlling it. I felt like, okay, I'm at work. I'm doing what I need to be at work. I get home. I see my kids probably an hour, if that, because when I got home, my husband had sorted the children, sorted dinner. My daughter was the youngest, was a lot more attached, and wanted more of me, so I'd lie in bed with her, give her a kiss. I'd make sure she knows that I kissed her, because I'd kiss her with my lipstick on, and she'd see it in the morning when she woke up. So, but I had no sense, to be honest with you. I think I was really lacking in terms of as a parent, as a mom, and didn't realize it. On saying that, though, I felt guilty, so I knew that there was this not the way it should be. I knew that as a mother, my responsibility to my children are bigger than that. I knew that they needed me, but I kind of justified that by lying to myself, really, making an excuse that they've got their dad and their daddy's so hands-on, and they're in a family. My mom's here if they need anything, and I overcompensated, so I buy them stuff all the time. I'd come home with stuff. I'd take them out when I could, I'd take a break and take them out, because I did that on a big scale. In my head, I was, overcompensating and giving them that as a way of compensating for my absence, but not realizing that, and a lot of the things, to be honest with you, there were things that were happening with my children at school that didn't even link back to me being absent. But my response, I didn't really take my responsibility seriously, because I was more committed to work. I wanted to show up at work. I needed to be showing up, to be present, to show up great, to show up and deliver. I had a team that was relying on me, and in my head back then, I wanted our team to always achieve and hit and hit. We were hitting and exceeding targets, and I needed to continue that. There was also a level of pressure from bosses that, this is because I'd set the standard, and I think that's one thing happened. I'd set a standard that we were exceeding. And I think we exceeded because I pushed myself so much. So even if I had a team that was working, and then I would even stay on late to ensure that I was putting things through. These targets were being hit. I'm tracking. And, and then come back in the morning early out of a pep talk with my team. And I had a great team. They were very supportive, very loyal, and we got on really well. But I was missing out on where I should be. I was missing out on my real responsibility, which came first, was to my family. My husband, in a big way, was I didn't even consider him. I did not even consider him in the equation, sadly. And my husband used to say things like, you must be married to that laptop, or you're married to that laptop. And he'd ring me some nights at work, and it's at 8 o'clock. So, do you want me to bring you your blankets? You want me to bring your dinner over? What time are you in? And even that used to annoy me. And I said, why is he calling me and asking me this? Doesn't he know I've got to work? I've got to bring the money. How else are we going to do this, And just didn't really pay much attention to that. it kind of came to a head one day with my, we went on holiday and my husband kind of snapped at something. And I think it's because he snapped on the holiday and I've never seen him like that. And but we kind of got in the room and started talking properly and it all came out, that I'm absent, I'm not there, it doesn't see me. And I thought, wow, didn't realize this is what this was causing. Didn't see it at all. And I had to take stock. Of that, and what I then did through that moment is started to change. And part of those, so those were a number of reasons why I knew I needed to leave. But even when I left and set my own business up, I was a lot better in terms of my responsibility and the reason I did it. But I think, my husband had a big brunt of this. And I started to realize that, I've got a responsibility here. And my husband's actually been made to feel insignificant and everything else was more insignificant than he was. So I had to address that. I had to really take time to stop, think that through, and then started putting actions in place, putting measures, practical things in place to ensure that my husband didn't feel like that anymore, because that's not what I wanted. I didn't want him to look like that. I didn't want him to be unhappy. That's not what I want a marriage to be. And I was glad that I was able to recognize that and then start taking my responsibilities more seriously to my children and my husband and my mom and to myself, to look after me more. And working for myself has given me the opportunity to do that. So, responsible to my husband, what I did, and just to share this with you as well, Kevin, I realized that my husband was snapping. He wasn't as happy as he used to be. He wasn't as laughing and smiling. I didn't see the joy in his eyes like he was. And he was going through the motions with the kids. He was looking after us. And I'd say, "Are you okay?" And he'd say, "Yeah, I'm okay." But I know that wasn't an okay answer. And I knew that there was something deeper going on. And as a coach, by that time I'd started training to become a coach, and I'd become aware of how our emotional, physical, psychological needs, when we're lacking those needs, how they present themselves. So I started started analysing, quietly looking and seeing what's going on, and I recognize that, what this is. I know exactly what's happening here. My husband is being made to feel a lower level of significance to everything else in our life and in our marriage, and I'm going to change that. And without saying anything to him, I then initially started. So my husband, so before that, my husband would text me at work or ring me, and when he rang me, I've been busy in meetings and I wouldn't be taking the call because I'm busy, and I hope I remember to call him back. Sometimes I forget, and till I get back home or late in the evening or something. And then some days he would text me to say, "I love you, have a good day." And I goes, "Oh, that's really nice." And I'd text back and said, "Thanks, love you too." But I was never the one initiating that or thinking about it enough to do it. So when I realized this is what was going on, I decided that I'm going to start taking those initiatives. I'm not going to wait for my husband to say "I love you" or to give me a text message or to do something lovely. I'll take initiative. I will do that. I'll initiate all of that. And I started doing that. And I started, sending little messages before he did send to me. And I then made it very vocal to him after that. After I started doing, I said, "Listen, I've recognized, that the way I've been behaving towards you, I'm not actually being a wife the way I should be. I've been ignoring you. I've been letting you down. I've been making you feel less of importance." And I said, "That stops today." I said, "Moving forward," I said, what you may have noticed that I now make sure I take your calls. So if you call me at work, I now excuse myself from a meeting and I take your call, because I want you to know, Michael, that you are so important to me, and you're more important than anything else. And as a matter of fact, I said, I want you to just know that. I want to let you know that all this is happening. And I had to apologize for my behavior, apologize for my ignorance and how my naivety and what I did to him, and kind of said, moving forward, I'm working on that. And that took that when I did that, Kevin, when I started making the conscious, very, very conscious choices of making sure that I put my husband first. I make sure my husband felt connected to me. He felt loved. He felt significant by me telling him every day, by me doing little things to let him know, by me, just kind of making him know and just saying, okay, so even when he comes home and I'm working, I'd stop working and he'd come in, like now he comes into my office and I just stop working when he comes in. And we have a chat and we have a laugh and I see how his day's been, how's my day been, and I take half an hour to give half an hour to him. And what I've noticed is that honestly, we don't have any kind of a snaps. We don't have, and this has been for years now. Thank God, touch wood, thank God for that. I can't recall, because when we've had some kind of a real altercation, any arguments, any big thing that goes on, because whenever there is an issue, any disagreements we have, it's a conversation now, and it's no longer something that's seeping underneath that he hasn't addressed, that he's not even aware of, because he hasn't got that. He feels so filled up with significance and love and affection and connection with me, which are those psychological needs that we all have. And I make sure that, and by filling up his needs, he fills up my needs. And I think when I fill him up, he fills me back up. And that's made such a difference to what's happening. So yeah, that's been amazing. That's been really, really good for me and for us and for the whole family. My children as well, I use exactly the same strategy in terms of my daughter. When she has a tantrum, when something's not going right, I kind of tap in to see, okay, so what is she lacking? Is she feeling a bit of a lack of connection with her mom? Is she not feeling like she's connecting or she's significant to me? Is she feeling less of importance to me? So when that happens, I just tap into that too. And, that makes such a difference. And we don't have that issue anymore. Thank God she's 16 and I don't really have tantrums from that, because I've learned how to meet those psychological needs of hers. And she's happiest. Yeah. And my son. Yeah.
It's a huge transformation, I think I'm hearing you describe, Nichole, and you're describing this with the benefit of hindsight, 5 years plus later that you've lived and learned, and you've used the word significance in relation to how your husband may have felt or not felt, how your children may have felt or not felt. It sounds to me like for yourself, for Nichole, that a lot of your own sense of significance and identity was really tied into your career. So yes. I'm wondering that even with all of this that you were learning, you're recognizing about the eroding relationship with your husband, how your kids were feeling and how you were feeling about that. But with how much significance and identity you had tied into your career, despite all the context you just described, how difficult and or scary was it to make that decision to leave that job and ultimately make that change? And basically, in the process, tell yourself that you were really kind of coming up with a whole new identity. How tough was that?
Yes, it was definitely, Kevin. And it's interesting you asked that question, because I've come to that realization a while back too, that my level of significance was tied up into that. And it was tied up in that because I had, like I said, I had a level of my responsibility at work, my respect I had, the loyalty of my team, I had autonomy. I almost felt that I was running my own business within an organization. It was almost felt like it was my own little business, Nichole Wynter business, running internally, because I had so much autonomy, and freedom to do so much. And in a way, I think that was kind of a double edge for me, because while as I've always wanted to work for myself, because I had created that kind of a little solo business kind of in the middle of this, it gave me it kind of felt like you were running your own and you had that level of independence. So so if that event hadn't happened, or my daughter and my mom getting ill, I probably would have stayed there thinking, hey, it's working and I can move up the ranks and I can do more. But when it was time for me to leave and then step away from that was some of the, in a sense that, I saw my level. I didn't think about it at the time in terms of, I didn't analyze it to that level, but that was scary in the form that I don't know. I'm comfortable here. This is pure comfort, I was in my comfort zone. This is bliss for me. Wherever I go now, will I have that same level? Will I have that same level of respect and admiration, really, and the same level of autonomy? And will I get that level of where people will see as I am? Will that be questioned? Will I be as good somewhere else as I am here? And I didn't know. I didn't know that. But and that's what made it scary. That's what made it scary. And at times, even though I'm like, yes, I'm gonna go. Yes, I needed to leave. There were moments when I questioned that before leaving, questioned it before I had my notice, and questioned everything when somebody asked me about it. And I'd come home and I think, wow, is that the right move? But by that time, but what I had done, I had my notice in, and I thought, well, there's no going back. I remember at the time, some of my senior managers said, Nichole, you can come back anytime. You can come back anytime you wish. And if it doesn't work out, please come back to us. We'll always have a job here for you. Your job will always be here. And maybe that gave me a safe sense that if I went somewhere else and didn't like it, I could always go back. Even though in the back of my mind, I had no intention. That was not my focus. My focus was now that Nichole Wynter was going to be going away, setting up her own business, working with organizations to help to change their bottom line, to change the way they did things. So I didn't really think about it like that, because I was probably quite, in a way, my level of consciousness or my belief was that I would go somewhere else and recreate what I've got here. What I've got here, Kevin. So in terms of significance, I didn't delve into it that way. But it's moving since after making that move and walking away and still working and start working for myself, that conversation with myself came up, and I had to look at what need am I feeding the way I was operating, the way I was my work was tied. What need was I trying to meet? What was my greatest need there? And it was significant. It was for me to it is the need for significance, because we all have those needs, but it's where is that being fulfilled, and was that a positive way for that to happen? But it was, because it did make me feel important and special and quite unique, and I think in a way, because as a woman, I think I've had that level of significance feeling for a while, because I'm working in a male dominated field. At the time I was, my background's IT. I was working in computer networks. I was troubleshooting networks. I was going out into businesses and looking at, the ICT strategies, which is something that men normally do. It's a male-dominated thing. So that alone kind of fed that need. That probably came through from childhood, I suppose, which I never really considered. But yeah, so it always made me feel a bit unique in that way. And then a lot of people would comment on that wow, that's quite unique to see a woman doing that. And then I started and managed a large team who are all mostly men, or about 90% men. And I had their respect, and we delivered, and we were smashing and over exceeding targets, and it gave me that sense of, I had that level that fed that. So that was a very tricky one, leaving there. And I think that's why I was so tied into that, and did so much, pushed myself so much there at the detriment of my family, without realizing, because that need, so that was meeting my need of significance, probably on a 9 out of a 10, because
How does one then transition from a male-dominated IT world to working with ambitious business women to help coach them as a miracle empowerment coach? What's that journey like?
Okay, yeah. How that has worked, and I think I've mentioned this to someone this week, because I've come from I'm not a feminist by any means, but I believe women leaders are really strong, and we're men, we're born to lead. So how it helps is when I go into an organization and I meet, and this is what I find, that females, there's a great percentage of female business owners, small business owners predominantly, who don't feel like leaders, who don't necessarily feel like they don't feel some days that they're actually got a business and their team isn't responsive or isn't doing the thing they want to do. So I think what I'm strong at, and coming from that background, is able to come in and said, okay, you have to set the standard here. You have to set the standard as a female business leader. You're the leader in your business. Now, you cannot be blaming your team for not delivering. You cannot blame a member of your team because they're turning up late consistently, or they're not responding the way you want them to respond to staff, or their appearance, how they dress isn't appropriate. You can't just leave it. You can't talk to them once. You can't just allow that. It's because you're not being what I call the leader. And they do say sometimes they don't feel like a leader. They don't feel like a business leader. They don't feel like that. So that has served me well in terms of, my strength is coming in and saying, look, I've gone in and said, look, this is laughable. We have to do something about it. And we laugh about it and said, okay, let's see how we work through this. And let's start off by saying, by agreeing, what exactly how do you want to look, feel, be, do? What do you want to stand for? What do you want your business to stand for? What is the vision you have for your business? And with that vision, how do you need to be? How do you see yourself as the leader that needs to set a standard? You are the first example for your team. How do you think you should be? What beliefs do you need to have? What are the behaviors that you need to have? What do you want the culture within your business to be? Because this is deep. This is where it all happens. If you're not able to set the culture purposely and consciously within your business, you're actually allowing a culture to form by default. And that's what happens a lot within small businesses I've seen, where they've not been a very clear creation of what that culture, what the standard needs to be for the business. And therefore, the team comes together, you employ and bring in hire new staff, and that staff comes in and learns from another member of the team or another member here. And then it creates a little bit, there's discord, there's no kind of, there's no standard. And everyone does the thing they feel like doing. And then the business owner then feels like, this is not how I want this. Then small things happen, like, for example, a member of the team goes out and on a network meeting, which has really happened, and go drinking a lot and cause a lot of reputational risk for the business when you're representing the business, or turns off and their attire, how they're persistently dressed for work, even though they've been spoken to, and they think, well, when I came in, you didn't say anything about it, so this is how it needs to be. So that's what happens sometimes. And so those are things that happen in those businesses because the leader hasn't set a standard. They haven't created a vision for the business. They haven't created the values and said, these are the values that we live by. These are the behaviors. This is what sets the tone for us. So from my background perspective as a leading a male-dominated team and being strong and very forceful in that has helped my clients, who's come back and said, they feel a lot more confident, they feel more in control of their business. It's scary sometimes because initially I'm encouraging them to do things that they've never thought they wanted to do. I'm encouraging them to have conversations with their team that they never thought was possible. I'm encouraging them to say, okay, now we've defined your vision for the business, which is key. Now we've defined the vision. I want this vision shared. It's important you share the vision with the team to ensure that you have your training. You get the team to understand what the vision looks like, and we ensure that everybody works with that. But more importantly, that you have to not just profess your values, that you actually you live your values, so that your team can see that you're fair and they'll follow you. So that has helped me, and that's transitioned into helping my team, my clients, in terms of setting those standards, being firm, being strong, and not in a way like an army sergeant where you're dictating. It's not that. It's just being with some integrity, knowing what you want, having a clear vision for your business and going after it and expecting it and enforcing that and ensuring that your team is following.
It's interesting to me to hear you say things like, if you don't set the culture, you allow the culture to form. Yeah. My immediate thought on that was, isn't that pretty much the same thing that happens in life? So in other words, I'm hearing a lot of parallels between your own personal journey that you described in the first part of this conversation, Nichole. Asking yourself, what do you want to stand for? How do you want to see yourself as a leader, or in your case, as a wife, as a mother? And a lot of the same things that you were asking in your own journey, how fair is it to suggest that seems like it's mirrored back in the work that you've just described and how you're helping other women in business?
It is fair. It is a very fair point, because I think sometimes, well, most times we attract what we are.
Yeah.
We attract so much what we are. And I think it turns out to be such an advantageous position, because it means, because I've been through that, because I recognize that, and I'm able to see that and say, I know that there's hope at the end of the tunnel. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And I know that this isn't fixed. We can change this. You can have what you want. You can have what you want in your business and in your life. And I think in terms of, again, business, female business, which is why I'm working with this set of beautiful people, really, is because I understand that even at the level where, I had a lady that said, her husband, her husband was ready for a divorce. And he would say he's married, he's widowed already or something like that, because of how much she worked as well, and not have time off to be with her husband, to be with her family. And I thought, wow. And that's having gone along this road, I've been working as a miracle empowerment coach to empower female business owners, really, to say, this is not why you're in business. This is not this is not what our life is meant to be. We're not here to be martyrs. We're not here to work 60 plus hours without any joy and real deep happiness and connection. We can spend all our life working if we want to. We can spend our life just being churning, working all hours. But is that really fulfilling us? Is that really what we want? And deep down, it's not what we want. It's not what we want. It's because I believe my belief is that we've seen how, or for me, having been exposed and seeing how the boardroom runs, I probably took my stance from that, in terms of this is how you need to be. If you're not working 60 hours a week, you're not doing anything. You're not being productive. You're not being creative. You're not making a difference. But at the same time, it's almost like this is it or nothing. You have to put this in. The reality is, yes, your business does require those hours. And, for what I was doing in my corporate world, the hours, the output that I had required the amount of hours that I put in, but it didn't need me. I didn't have to be so involved. I didn't have to, it didn't necessarily mean that I had to do that. Clearly I needed new support. I needed more members on my team, but I was probably quite unreasonable anyway, if I'm being honest, in terms of my standards are really high. And, I probably didn't want to put any more pressure on my team. So I did what they didn't do. I picked up the slack and made it happen, because the reputation was important to me. My reputation was important to me, that we continued to achieve and over exceed targets. And I didn't want to upset the standards. I need to maintain that. But in terms of when I now look at businesses, what I say to, female business owners, your business, yes, will require the effort. It'll require the time to build, to nurture, to grow, and to expand. And it requires the energy. It requires some financial investment. It requires a lot of skill. Yes, it does. But it doesn't have to be you. You don't have to be the one that does it all. So, what I then say, working my team to do, my clients, is to look at how we can either look at the existing team you've got and to develop the team so the team can support the vision for your business, or we look at bringing in additional, and sometimes we do bring in additional because for different reasons, really. So we may bring in an additional person because you haven't identified that role very clearly and you haven't got someone specifically doing that, and everyone's doing too many things and it's not been a very effective way or productive way of doing it or efficiently doing it. So it is that even though your business will require the hours, it doesn't necessarily require you. So it's about delegating, doing what you're dumping, you're delegating that. Who's going to do it? How are we going to do it? And you clearly define it. You know what the vision is for the business. And then you ought to know then this is for me to deliver this vision, and this is what we're here to do. How are we going to do that? And in order for us to do that with a how, then who? What are the roles? What are the positions that we need in place to enable us to do this, and for us to do this well, and for the business owner to be able to finish work at the end of the day and go home to her family at a reasonable time, have weekends back, have her evenings back, spend time with her husband again, spend time with her children, go back to the gym, go back to yoga, go back to swimming, go back to dancing, have fun walking again in the woods, just go for a spa break. And, this is something I've noticed my clients enjoy, spa breaks. So, one of the things we do when we start working is find out what is it that you wanted to do that you haven't done for a while, that gave you joy and filled your soul and made you feel really good. And, if it's a spa break, let's book one in now. So we know we're going to work towards you having that spa break in 2 months' time. And we're going to work and achieve that. So, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference to go back, to look at a date when you're going to stop working, so when we reduce your hours. Because I don't believe that we should be working that way.
I'm thinking about a conversation that I just had recently with a former client of mine, Nichole, that I'd like to share with you, because I think it really plays into these questions that we ask. I think that business and home life and who we are so intricately tied in, because when we ask ourselves about where we get that sense of significance, what we view as success, how we want to show up, what kind of culture we want to set, not just for our work, but for our lives. And when you said about how your business may require the hours, but it doesn't necessarily require you, I was interested to hear and wanted to share with you how one of my former clients that I worked with as a marketing consultant, he and I were having a visit a couple of weeks ago. And by any standard, if you were to look at him from the outside, you would think he was a very successful business person, and I would say that he is. But he said to me, Kevin, I don't feel like I've been successful yet. And I said, that's interesting. Tell me why. He says, because until the business can function the same way, whether I'm there or not,
yes, that's it. Yes,
I don't feel I've been completely successful. And I hear you saying essentially the same thing.
Absolutely. Yes. That is exactly right. And that's what I do. So I work with them. This is what we do. We agree. How many days a week would you want to work? What would be ideal for you? And that's a scary thing when you're working 6 hours a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. And I'm suggesting that you can just let me know, just choose something. Don't worry about it just now. I've got clients who, yes, I want to do 4 days. I want to do 5 days because that's reasonable for me. That's as far as my brain can think. And we've gone down to that. And what we've done is work on two things really. Is working on creating what I call their dream team, or I call it the miracle team, a team that will they'll be reliable, a team that will have the vision, the passion for the business at heart, and they will want to be successful. Because if your business is successful, they know they will have a job, they'll be successful too. And that's what we do. So we start looking at how we create that team, how we work with your existing team, or we bring in additional team members to create that. We look at what we need, and also so we can leverage the team to enable them to do that. And secondly, we look at the systems. We look at, okay, let's have a look at what have you got in, what are the processes, and a lot of this is in their heads, and it's just standard. I see it happens all the time. It seems like it's just a norm, to be honest, Kevin. It's in their head. Everybody knows this is my role, or this is what I'm supposed to do. I've had a situation with a client where the miscommunication somewhere. I remember the team didn't pick up something. It cost them dearly financially. And when they asked, she said, "Well, it's not my job to do." And I said, "Well, whose responsibility does that come under?" And because everybody's been doing so many different things, mixing and matching, there's nobody with a level of accountability. Obviously, the accountability rests with the owner, the business owner. So we then said, okay, how do we stop this happening again? This is why we're introducing the system. So we start working on looking at implementing systems. So the systems, your team then will follow the system. We use the system for your induction. You get trained. We test the systems out, and we do them slowly. We don't implement everything one time. We look at the systems that we need to start with, which are the key ones, and we start doing that. And it makes a difference, because suddenly we also use a way of either we document or we record them we use, now that we've got free screen recording software, I'm using that a lot with my clients, and they're recording, the whole processes and putting that in their shared area, and that sits as part of the induction program for their clients and for training. And if when the team business owner is away, or she doesn't get that many questions anymore, and I'm saying, okay, well, what I want you to do is start creating new habits. So no, they don't come and ask you these questions. You direct them to that and ensure they're reading that and feeding that back, and it just relieves the pressure, and it makes such a difference. You don't need. That's it. So you can step away. You don't have to be doing 7 days. Now you can be down to 4. And you're earning a lot more money in your business because you're systemizing it, and you're looking at tracking. So something I do as well is track, ensure that we're measuring, tracking. And I think when you focus on anything, it changes. So I've gone in and we're looking at what do we want to achieve financially, because it's all about bringing some revenue in. And then where are we now? What do we need to do? And what do we need to do every day? How much do we need to produce, sell every day to enable that to happen over the week, over the month, over the quarter? And where are the variants? So we look at profiling for the whole year, profiling where is that money going to come in from, and we look at where there are variations, where we got variance in, where it hasn't hit. We know then that we haven't hit this. Did we profile this? What did we miss? What happened? Why that could have happened? And then we ensure, look, the team needs to work a bit more of that. And also, in terms of implementing a responsibility team that will track, a team that will carry out the sales function, because I'm finding sales is a big thing for small business. They don't necessarily focus on real sales. Somebody may say I'm doing sales, but that might be just an email respond to a customer. I've gone in and said that's not really going to really help your bottom line. We need to be a bit more active on this, probably even more aggressive on our approach on this. So we take a stance that if we don't track it, if we don't focus on it, if we don't keep an eye on it, and we don't do the work on it, it's not going to grow, and we're not going to get there. So this is an active piece of work, and we're monitoring, tracking. We're tracking how many callbacks you're doing. We're tracking the responses from when the callbacks. We're tracking where we drop in. We're tracking where we get a cancellation. Why is the cancellation coming in? So we can actually look at those as objections. We can then put some responses against that. We can train the team how to manage those objections. So what we're doing is at all angles is minimizing the risk for the reduction in the revenue. We're minimizing that right around. We're looking at where are the gaps, where are stabilizing the business, and looking at let's close the hole. It's no point having a hole in the bucket leaking out when you're trying to look at the top line and it's all falling out to the bottom line. So we need to look at both areas. So that's what we do. And that's what I do with my clients, and it's working. It is absolutely working, and thank God. And I think that's come from my background. As a coach, normally for coaching, you go in and you ask a lot of questions. Well, as coaches we do, but I think as a consultant as well, I think it's given me an advantage in terms of my background. I can bring a lot more to the table. I can bring a lot more in terms of experience, knowledge, way of doing things, and also what I'm finding, because I read extensively, I ensure I'm developing myself extensively. I spend a lot of time working on me, working on my mindset, working on pushing me, because I believe my clients will only go as far as I go. So I have to, as scary as some moments are, recognize them. I have to recognize that, okay, I'm having a little bit of fear here, a little bit of resistance, but I know what it is. And that's why awareness is so big. Self-awareness is the best thing we can have. It's just huge. It's a game changer. It's a game changer on so many levels that I can tap into when I'm having a low moment. For instance, on my phone, Kevin, I've got triggers, alarms that I set up throughout the day, and my alarms are set up to remind me how to think in case I forget, remind me to check in on my energy levels. So it may be, and it was my energy level, and it goes off, and it may be a question. I look at it and it won't go off. It won't stop till I stop it. Is my energy level between an 8 and a 10? And if it's not, it's not. But then it allows me to be more mindful of that and to mindfully just check in with what's going on. Why is my energy? What are my concerns? What am I worried about? What am I thinking? What's going on with me today internally? Or what's happened externally that's created that? What is happening? What am I fearful will happen? And then I address that and I tackle that, and I may sit down and write it out. And it doesn't, to be honest, thank God and touch wood, it doesn't take me very long now to snap out if I'm ever below an 8, to kind of work on that and get back into my peak state. So and I use those strategies to my clients to help them, because I believe that when I work with my clients, it's not about the practical strategies around their business. A big part of that is the mindset, emotional awareness, how we manage, how we take the steps. So no matter how fearful we are, how the beliefs we have, how we set ourselves up for success from our mind first. Because if it happens there first before it happens in a practical, physical world. So it's a combination of both. So I do mindset as well as business strategies with my clients to get the best out of them.
Looking back from where you were 5+ years ago and where we started this conversation, before we wrap up, how has life changed personally for you and with your husband and with your children and family life, and your feeling of satisfaction, significance, and contribution? How has it changed in that time?
Huge, Kevin. It's making me smile just kind of when you ask me that question. I think about it. It's brought a big smile to my face, because it's like today. It's a beautiful day in England. We haven't had sun for a very long time. And today, I could take a break and take my daughter out for ice cream. I said, okay, let's stop. Let's go and find some ice cream. It's such a beautiful day. We won't waste it. Let's get out and do something. And we do that. And this is just one of the many things we do now. My daughter and I, she turned 16, and we went for a spa break together. My husband and I, we go out more, a lot more. And even if we're not out, we're connecting at home. We have more time together. We have time where we have cinema nights. We have evenings together, days together. We lunch together. I get to drop my daughter off, to school and meet her in the evenings. I'm available if she needs me. I can in the mornings. There's not a crazy rush around and just panicked and screaming and get up. You're going to be late. It's not like that. It's a lot more manageable and controlled and peaceful. I get to take my mom my mom has a million appointments, not a million really, but my mom goes to probably these medical appointments. In a month, she probably has about 5 appointments. And if I, where I am now, I'm able to take her to those appointments with no problem at all, no issue. Take her there, and it's not an issue at all. I'm able to see my daughter more, see my son more, see my husband more, spend more time, and more time for me. So in the morning, so I get up in the mornings, I pray, I find time to meditate, and then, do some exercise. And I wouldn't have had that opportunity. I was always rushing. I remember when I worked, going back, previous to this, when I was working, I started going to the gym very early in the mornings before work. And that just compounded the situation with my family, because I left so early and went to the gym about 6, workout, went to work. It meant that I was away from the home even longer. So it's not like I did that and finished early and come back. But now, my daughter said to me, Mom, I'm so glad that, nicest thing she says, I'm so glad that you don't do that anymore, that job anymore. You work for yourself, because now I get to see you. She says, my friends at school used to think I only had a dad. They didn't think I had a mom. And I think, wow, we see so much of each other now. It's become so normal again. This is like, wow, this is bliss. This is, and I thank God for this, for the way my life is. I thank God that I'm able to find time to even just to meditate peacefully, pray without a rush, connect with myself. I'm so much more at peace. I'm loving who I am. I'm loving the woman I've grown into. I'm loving the fact that I can help so many people and connect on such deeper levels. And it just feels real. It feels like I'm living my purpose through my business. It feels like this is what I'm here to do. it feels blissful. If if that answers that question for you, yeah. And I feel completely filled up and really connected, significant to my own space. I feel like I'm contributing more, in terms of what I'm doing. I'm helping, I'm sharing, and I'm making contribution a big part of a greater need, as in fulfilling that, my purpose, contribution, and making a difference.
One way or the other, it's led us to being connected, and I'm just so grateful for that, Nichole, and thank you so much for sharing so much of what you have. I know for sure it's going to help some other people that may currently be struggling with some of the things that you or I have struggled with along our paths, and that's what it's all about, is reaching out and helping each other, and just trying to maybe leave the world a little bit better than what we found.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. Yeah.
It almost seems counterintuitive, but it's, it seems like the best way to do that is to really get more in touch with ourselves and make sure that we're as healthy and prepared to serve the as best we can. And you're a wonderful example and have become a great friend. And thank you so much for this. I look forward to connecting again down the road, Nichole. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Appreciate that. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Happy I was able to do this. Thank you.
To learn more about Nichole and to connect with her, the best place to do that is at NicholeWynter.com. Now, Nichole is Nichole, and Wynter is with a Y, Wynter, NicholeWynter.com. I'll make sure that I have that link up on the show notes blog post for this episode, which is number 76, at NoScheduleManPodcast.com. You can also find Nichole on Facebook. She has a page at facebook.com/Iam Nichole Wynter. If you like this episode, I'm pretty sure that you're also really going to like episode 75 from a week ago. It's called Flush the Fear with Beth Allen. Her journey, not at all dissimilar to Nichole's in terms of getting into the corporate world, doing really well, and then finding sort of a deep creative urge inside her that shaped her journey differently as she went along. That's episode 75 with Beth Allen, Flush the Fear. Episode 73, again, a similar story, but this time from Matthew Kimberly. It's called Fun, Freedom, and Flow, that he had a lot of success in the jobs that he was having in a variety of different environments, but ultimately, like Nichole, found that he needed to break out on his own, find his own voice, and live authentically. And that's a tremendous episode, especially if you have any stake in sales in an entrepreneurial or small business endeavor. I would strongly suggest you listen to episode 73 with Matthew Kimberly and look into what he offers, just as I would do for episode 67 with Dan Martell. That one's called How Do I Create a Life I Love? Now, Dan is a guy whose life was a mess as a young man, and he has turned into an absolute gem of a human being and a tremendously successful business person and entrepreneur and angel investor who is giving of himself and all of the knowledge that he has accrued along the way and accumulated. He is trying to share with people like you and me to empower us on our journeys. And that episode is absolutely jam-packed with great insights. Episode 67, How Do I Create a Life I Love? With Dan Martell. You can find those and all past episodes of this podcast around the world on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and at NoScheduleManPodcast.com. If you'd like to connect with me, I'd love that. Just look for No Schedule Man or Kevin Bulmer on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. You'll find me on all of those platforms, or just visit me at kevinbulmer.com. Bulmer is how you spell my last name. You can learn more about my speaking. I won't mess up like that from the stage. Well, I might, but I'll keep going anyway. You can learn more about my speaking, small business marketing, and mindset coaching and other content there. And again, a reminder to be a part of my online community for daily access to me, encouragement, empowerment, support, and creative collaboration. Visit me at theturtletribe.com. See if that's for you. Thank you again for listening. I really appreciate you spending the time. If you found this helpful, please do subscribe and let a friend know that we're here. I hope to have you here again next time for the next episode of Journeys with the No Schedule Man.
Just a little deja vu.